Is this happening to you? Then you're in the right place for video game training. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to defeat Rellana on Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. Okay, so let's jump into the fight. What I'll do is show you the fight first, and then afterwards I'll show you the gear that we used and my character's stats. We'll be doing this solo using no summons. First of all, what we'll do is use Bestial Vitality and Flame Grant Me Strength. Bestial Vitality will give us HP regen, and Flame Grant Me Strength will increase our physical attack. Then what we'll do is switch over to the Serpent Bow and Serpent Arrows. We want to get 2 or 3 shots into her with these arrows. This will apply the poison effect, and you'll see her health is ticking on down, and she's got a green aura on her body. Next, what we want to do is apply Scarlet Rot. So for this, we're going to use Rotten Breath. Sometimes applying Scarlet Rot can be a bit tricky. Depending on what happens, you might need to use Rotten Breath anywhere between 1 and 4 times. Ideally, if it goes really smoothly, you can just get it in 1 Rotten Breath. But as we know, this is a Souls game and not everything goes so smoothly. The most consistent way that I've got the Scarlet Rot to apply is to run back a bit and create a decent amount of space between you and Rellana. And on top of that, if you can also get her against a wall or into a corner, that tends to help as well. And the reason for that is because when you use Rotten Breath, sometimes she tries to jump to the right or the left to avoid it, but if you've got her close to a wall, then she jumps into the wall instead, then the majority of the Rotten Breath will get her. Even though sometimes this can be quite tricky to apply, you'll see why it's massively useful in phase 2. It's also worth tanking a few hits just to apply it. Just make sure to keep your health topped up so you can tank a few hits. You'll know when the Scarlet Rot has applied because you'll see a red aura on her body. So now we have Poison and Scarlet Rot both ticking her health down at the same time. And if you keep an eye on her health bar, you'll see how fast it's actually ticking down, which is really fast. In terms of getting your attacks in, there's not really a massive amount of openings for you to actually attack, although I have found a handful of consistent opportunities. So one of those is kind of like where she has the 2 swords crossed over each other, and then she lunges towards you and attacks you by crossing the swords. After that one, there's usually an opening for about a second or 2, so use that chance to take an action. Another really good chance to strike is after the giant magic greatsword double attack. For the first attack in this combo, you just want to roll to your right or left, and then the second attack you want to run towards her and then roll forwards. By doing that, you should end up really close to Rellana. At that point, you've got a chance to take an action. Another good opening to look out for is after she fires the magical swords towards you, she'll then do a jumping lunge towards you as well. Then she'll do like an uppercut attack. There's always about 1 or 2 seconds for us to take an action here. It's the magical sword attack where the swords are lower to the ground that triggers the lunging forward uppercut attack. It's not the magical swords that are higher above her head, although sometimes she can actually cast the upper swords and the lower swords together at the same time. It's also worth mentioning that she might not do the lunging uppercut if there's too much distance between you and her. Another attack to look out for, which will give us an opening after it's done, is the one where she holds one sword above her head for a second and then swings it round in a semicircle motion. You've got another chance to take an action here. There's also an attack where she holds both swords next to each other and then slices diagonally, then slices diagonally again. There's a bit of a delay in both of these attacks, so don't roll too soon. Delay your roll a little bit. After she does the second attack in this combo, that's another chance for you to take an action, so keep your eyes peeled for this. I think if memory serves, this attack here is very similar to an attack that Lady Maria does in Bloodborne, which I thought was quite cool, and I also recommend playing Bloodborne if you get the chance. I also just want to mention that she's got a long range heal punish, which is like a magic sword slash. Just be aware of that if you're going to heal at a distance. When her health gets down to about 50% remaining, she'll change into phase 2, and in this phase, one of her swords will be imbued with fire and the other will be imbued with magic. While she is changing her phase, you actually have the chance to put in quite a lot of damage, so ideally you kind of want to be prepared for the phase change. Try to make sure that your health is topped up and your magic is topped up before you drop her down to 50% health, because that way you're then ready and waiting for the phase change, and you can take that chance to put in a massive amount of damage. After she imbues her swords with magic, a lot of the time, but not all of the time, she tends to go into one of 2 attacks. If you're really close to her, she'll go into a fire attack, and this can do a lot of damage, so ideally back away from her so she doesn't do the fire attack. And sometimes, usually if you're further away, she'll fire a bunch of magical sword slashes towards you. Usually I find that rolling diagonally left and backwards, or diagonally right and backwards multiple times tends to avoid all of the magical sword slashes. However, on the last magical sword slash, I would roll towards your left, right, or forward instead. After you get into phase 2, there's kind of 2 different ways that you can approach this phase. One option is run away, literally just keep running away around the arena. This tactic is dependent on how much time it's taken you to get into phase 2, because if you still have the poison and the scarlet rot applied, or even if it's just one of those, you can actually just keep running away and the poison and the scarlet rot will just take care of the rest of the fight for us. So it's just a case of surviving the attacks. This is why it's worth applying the poison and the scarlet rot earlier in the fight. So that's option 1, and option 2 is just a repeat of phase 1, which is just looking out for those opportunities to attack. The only thing is, in phase 2, which is a bit more wild, and your opportunities to attack are very, very slim. One more attack to look out for when you get her health really low is her Twin Moons combo attack, and this attack is an absolute beast, so you gotta keep your eyes peeled for it. First of all, she'll float up into the air, she'll drop 2 moons into the floor, then she'll also plunge herself into the floor. These attacks will create massive shockwaves as they hit the floor, so you have to jump over all 3 of these shockwaves. Ideally, if you can jump towards her and place yourself close to her after the 3rd shockwave, this will give you a decent chunk of time to put in your damage. After you land the final strike, you can also switch over to the Golden Scarab Talisman, which, as long as you're quick enough doing this, will get you an extra 20% runes, and this boss drops a huge amount of runes, so getting an extra 20% is massively useful. This is the gear, equipment and talismans that we used in this fight. Whilst we take a look at this, I just want to say it's massively important to be collecting the Erdtree fragments. You then want to be using the Erdtree fragments at a site of grace to increase your Erdtree blessing level. By increasing your blessing level, it increases the damage that you deal and it decreases the damage that you take. If you're using Spirit Ash summons, you also want to be leveling up your Revered Spirit Ash blessing as well, as once again that will make your Spirit Ashes deal more damage and take less damage. So if you're massively stuck on a boss fight, I'd recommend leaving the boss fight for a while and then going to find some Erdtree fragments, then come back to the boss fight after you've leveled up your blessing levels a bit. These blessing levels only apply to your character in the DLC. Some more videos from me have just popped up on the screen. If you enjoyed this video, then it's likely you'll enjoy one of those as well. Other than that, thank you so much for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.